Yeah.
Nice. Noise. Crushed it. Noise.
Love it. All right. Today's podcast, we're going to talk about the best of our career. Just the best. All good things all the time. So, we're going to start with what have you enjoyed? What have we enjoyed about our careers and at the pro level?
This is
I'm going
gonna
to
be
let you
fun.
start.
Okay, you're gonna let me start. The best. All right. One of we'll say the best environment for me. Nashville's first year playing against Cincinnati, major rivalry, and we made playoffs. We had to play against Cincinnati in Cincinnati, and there was
Ooh.
80,000 fans, completely sold out, and that was an extreme environment. Major competition, everything on the line, single elimination, winner moves on. So for me, environment, that was an amazing environment on an away match, unreal. Home match is completely different, but for a playoff game, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, that is a lot of people. I can confidently say I have not played in front of 80,000 people.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not a comparison. It's just
Yeah.
like, the highlight. They're all different.
For sure. That is definitely a highlight. I would if I've had that top of top of the enjoyment list for sure. No, that's awesome. I think where I've like found joy in the professional side of it is honestly like the relationships and the experience itself because I didn't like play any of my pro career in the States. It's always been outside the States. And
Yeah.
so like just really getting to embrace that experience of the culture, the people, and I've like loved that. I absolutely enjoyed it and like seeing like their style of the game. Like yes, I'm having to adjust and fit in with my own little flair, but really getting to take that in like, oh, this is how you guys do things here. Like, okay. And like I'd say the closest thing I would have to come to like 80,000 fans was we came back from our cup final. It was like they played it in Sweden at like the city field like for only like cup matches. We win that final. We get back to our stadium off the bus and there's guys with flares and they had like the banners up and everything. There was like five of them, but it was awesome.
It's hard to describe, and it's hard to like when you talk about these things, it's just so fresh in the back of your head, right? And it brings such joy and excitement of like these are the moments. So you just mentioned it's like the social connections. It's like a band of brothers. You go out there in front of 80,000 fans, it's band of brothers. You're like, all right, you got my back, I got your back. We're going to sacrifice. We're going to die on this field together and we're going to be victorious. Talking about emotional overload. But yes, to your point, yeah, the connections that you make are lifelong connections. And
Mhm.
another highlight for me is meeting some of the people that I've met. Like you're saying, Jose Baxter, we were on the phone the other day, and he's in England. He captained the national team. He he played in for Everton, scored for Everton, scored for the national team. Just like these people, they're authentic human beings, and you relate on such a level that I think brings such joy in a competitive environment. But to know that certain people will sacrifice for you is so intimate without it being without being romantic. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
maybe it's romantic. It is romantic. Soccer is romantic. Romance has a lot of romance. I love it. I think we all do, which is why we play it, and we just don't. We maybe we're sensitive and don't want to say that, but it is
Mhm.
romantic. Um, yeah, yeah. All right, give us another.
Um, I think another part of the game at the career or at the professional level that I've enjoyed is, you know, the constant change in challenges. Crazy enough. Like if it's, if it was the league or who we're up against that day, the tactical change, like especially this year, we have never done the same thing every game. And so even though maybe I've been like the right back, my job has been different every game and I love it. I absolutely love it. As much as I enjoy consistency, I've enjoyed a different challenge every time tactically. You know, the person that I'm up against because I've always been the one to make others react. And now this year I've been the one having to react. And not only being a student of the game in this new role, but like truly having new things every week. Can you do this job? Like that challenge, I've loved it.
To achieve those things is quite an accomplishment. And I say that uh, the tactics change. I like to look at it as the players change. Like the game's evolving every day.
Mm.
And whether you are right back to a right winger or a right back and all of a sudden you're on the left winger, it's a game of chess. And to win at a game of chess, or just like that in terms of reacting on in a moment or the timing of the game, I think that's a really good shout out. I give credit for you. That's a really good shout out. I like that. Because
Shit.
it's so hard.
Yeah.
How can I mean it's the best players make the game look easy, but it's like it's 11v11 plus a ref plus the emotion, moving, constantly changing. It's too complicated. That's all I'm saying. Job well done. Give credit when
I
it's due. Job.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but the next thing I was thinking about was like wanting to ask you, what was your like most memorable like goal? Because I've obviously seen some clips.
No doubt. First goal I ever scored. Now it's funny because it was in Minnesota and we were playing Tampa Bay Rowdies and the ball goes wide and I'm a holding mid that, the ball transitions from the defensive third to the attacking third and I'm just busting it. And what's funny is the guy plays the ball over the center back fullback and I'm going away from the goal and I left foot slide shoot type of thing, like kind of like his Zambini, and it goes in the upper V. And I scored and I celebrated like a little schoolgirl. It was wonderful. It was I have to find that goal. It was in Viking Stadium at the time. It was at a football stadium and freezing cold outside, snow everywhere. So we're playing indoors and we got to play against Tampa Bay in it. And I scored an absolute banger. I'm just like, right. This is how I started my career. Wonderful. Could not be better. I don't think I scored another. Well, the emotion, everything, first goal, bar none, best goal ever.
Love
What
it.
about you?
Man, you know me. I'm not much of a goal scorer. I like to do all the work and let somebody else just tap it in, and I'm so excited about that. That is
We
no,
can
seriously.
get this. We'll get on assist later. What is your
Okay,
best goal?
that's fair. But I would say like all-time favorite professional goal was against actually one of our rivals here, Champions League team. I'm not going to say their name correctly, but we just call them like Blix, but Breidablik. Like
Blah,
they
blah, blah.
are, yep, exactly. Their women's team is known to be very good. They're always in that one or two position in Champions League, like for that, spot to go out of our league. And we were playing them. It was my first year in Iceland at home, and they had put an early goal away, like silly error, like and so we were under one, and our keeper, she's sitting there bouncing the ball, killing some time. I'm like, it's 7 minutes into the game. What are we doing? And she's sitting there bouncing it, and she had no thought. It sounds so bad. No thought, and just punts it. And I see my attacking mid, she's like standing there kind of like hesitant, deciding like if she should bring it down. And I just had yelled flick. Like, and keep in mind, it's incredible that they even like she translated it that fast, like because English is just not the first language, but it just flew out of my mouth because I had already started my run just barely inside that outside back because the center backs had stepped up and I was like, I see my gap.
Yeah.
And so she flicks it over 1v1 with the keeper. And keep in mind, this girl is like known to be like the face of Iceland keepers. But she's known to be like the face of Iceland. And I go 1v1 with her, and I instead of like placing it to a side, I meg her. And yeah, stands are
Good on you.
crazy.
Yep.
Oh, I was so excited. Like I think the celebration, I didn't even have time to like go and do something cool. I immediately was just like, yeah, like to everybody. And because also that was like my first legit goal for the club. Like I had one that everybody was like, it like wasn't great, but it was a goal. That one was legit, and to be against that team and absolutely just see every one of their defenders just like was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And it just like it lifted the entire group for the rest of that game. Because we were down for maybe 2 minutes and to come back that way. And everybody was just like, that was that lift of hope to keep that game going because we were also teetering in the league at that point, like with points. We were like, we had to at least get a point from this game, even
Yeah,
though they're the actual like favorites to win
yeah,
the league this year, you know, and to have that was amazing. It was amazing.
very nice. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Well, since we're on the topic, what about the assist?
Oh, hands down, my favorite assist I have ever had was last year. I was actually playing a right back for the first time ever. It was just a tactical change. We were deciding instead of a 3-4-3, we switched to a 4-4-2. And ball goes out high. It's against like the number one like contender for with us for the top of the league. Like early in the season, first home game, place was full of fans from both teams, not just ours, but like basically half of Iceland was there. It was amazing. And throw in. So I quickly take it, throw it to our six. She plays it up just as we had drawn it out in training. Plays it to our eight, one time back to me. Great prep touch. And I play a like the cross that we've been working on that width, like bend,
Yeah,
like bending
yeah.
ball in, and it hits Shayna right on the head. I mean, perfect. Boom, goal. Every like all their entire team just oh, because it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It wasn't one of those like, oh, thank God because we needed that. Like, no, it was just a beautiful looking play. I loved every second of it. I think I ran faster to celebrate the goal than I did at any other sprint in the game. If we had those player techs, 100%, that was my fastest sprint. It was awesome.
I like it.
I'll have
I
to send
like
it
it.
your,
Please
you're gonna have
do.
to, yeah.
Please do. I'm stoked to like all these things. I love seeing this stuff.
Hmm. What about you though? Favorite assist?
I uh I would say it was my last year in Nashville. I had a hat trick of assist. I had 3 assists in one game.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool. Set pieces. One was a corner, one was outside the box, and then another was in the run of play. And yeah, after the game, I'm like, that was weird. That's never happened before. Like, but I did. I don't like it. We were just on the timing of the season was leak almost in playoff. So we're searching for extra points. And I remember the pressure as it built up. And this is like fall season, getting prepared for playoffs and needing more. So your standings are higher up. You're higher up in the standings. And I remember approaching the game with calmness and practicing the set pieces the day before, 2 days before. I'm like, I'm the guy for the set pieces. And it just happened. First one, no problem. Second one, like it was smooth as silk. And the game finished. I'm like, there's only a handful of people who actually have a hat trick of assist in a game. I'm like, we'll just check that one right off that box. So we're good to
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
think now if I've had one of those in my pro like I definitely have in college, but in my pro career, I think I've only had it happen one time. And it was we were down 2-0 in Sweden. I scored actually as well. I've scored the first, it was an accident. I scored and so it sets it to 2-1 and then out of nowhere we come back to tie the game 4-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. My hands down best half of soccer I've played in a very long time was that second half, but the first half was like non-existent. I think everybody was like, "Oh man, I can feel it's pretty late" because they had to push the game back for I think the men's team had a game or something, so we didn't start our match till like 8:30 or something, and
Yeah.
everybody was still just kind of like, and during warm up and everything, and then the second half, our coach didn't even say anything. Keep in mind, if he did, obviously I didn't understand it. It was Swedish, but like second half, everybody just came out with like a totally different passion, and it just the other team didn't even know what hit them. 4-4. I think that's also the highest scoring professional game I've been in. 4-4.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot. I
Absolutely.
mean, goals is a lot of goals, but it's very hard to do.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
people is like, oh, we want more goals. It's hard to score goals for
That's
crying out
why
loud.
you get
Yeah.
rewarded for it.
Yeah, and assisting is also a skill in itself. So nice. It's
Yeah,
good.
but just the one time. If I'm being honest, my
Well, if
pro
you were doing multiple assists, then you probably are getting paid millions of dollars. You're not getting paid that, are
wish
you?
I wish I was getting paid millions of dollars. That'd be that'd be nice.
On to the next one, the best of the best. What's next? What else you got?
So, as far as environment for a team, we know environment of a game, but what's been your favorite environment, like team wise, that you've had in your career?
It's funny because I think the lesser of equipment, the lesser of financial backing, the better the environment. Hear me out. One of the best things about Minnesota is we were league owned, meaning we didn't have an owner. So the other owners literally kept us afloat so that the league could continue on. And this was in the second division, this was the NASL, and it was one of the funniest things ever because guys weren't getting paid hardly anything. I was sleeping in a closet at the time through the year. Like I lived in a closet. And another buddy of mine did. It was it was four people in a 2 bedroom. And we would get up, we would eat our cheap breakfast, and we would go to training out in the cold, drive 45 minutes in the snow to finally get to the indoor. Um, we didn't have refrigerators, so we kept our stuff outside because of how cold it was. And
Go
things would
on.
you just bring it in. We didn't have stoves. Everything was like it was ghetto. But playing, you just loved playing so much because that was the highlight of the day. And you'd go back to where we lived, and you're just like, I'm living in a closet. Like, I don't want to be here. But when you would train harder. You would train with more passion, with more joy. And so I think of the environment. I wasn't the only one. Everyone else was on, you know, pennies compared to the other teams, and we fought harder than the other teams because of our environment. And it's just so funny because it's like everything else just becomes not secondary, but passive or just I don't know. I look back and I think of that was the best time I had with a group of guys in terms of we would laugh at our situation. We weren't supposed to win. We ended up making it to the finals. We were the nobodies. We were the guys eating chicken nuggets before the game because we couldn't afford a regular, pasta dish or whatever it was. And we would laugh about how our circumstances were as unforgiving as they were, but it bonded us even more so than the bougie locker rooms that I've lived in. The entitled individuals that come about that go, I deserve this. We didn't deserve anything. We weren't supposed to be there. We were an accident. We were the accident child that wasn't supposed to be in the family. And we all knew it. And we were just grateful. Every day we were grateful to be playing for another couple of months. And that for me, that was the best environment. Everyone understood their situation, their role, what was to be expected, and that we weren't supposed to succeed. So it was against all odds, poor as ever, eating whatever we could to survive. And after the game when we celebrated, we celebrated. It was hard and it was worth it. That was
That is amazing.
well,
To be fair,
I have stories for days.
I've also lived in a closet in my professional career twice, actually.
What does
Maybe
it
this
take
is
to be a pro? Live in a closet. If you can survive those days, you'll be all right.
that's when you know you really love the game. When you're like, this is doable. I can do this. And it's like a smaller walk-in closet. Your mattress just fits and your
Perfectly.
suitcase you're like stepping over.
Nothing else fits except for the mattress. And you're like, well, this is kind of comforting. I'm so close to the walls. Like,
Yeah,
who's gonna come in? There's only one way. Can't come from a right or a left or above. I see it. Also
exactly.
terrifying.
Right,
Terrifying.
right. That's amazing.
Horror stories.
Um, Man, I've had fun stories like that. Like same with like my environment in Sweden. Like I enjoyed it because I knew what I was getting into.
Mm.
Like we were dead last when I got there, and they only brought me in, and they were like, "Save the club," and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how does one do that? But I enjoyed it for what it was. Like, I told myself not to have expectations, and I loved it. But if I had to pick like the best environment of an entire team and like staff, etc., last year was amazing until I got deported. But it was amazing.
Until I got deported. It was a great
Yeah,
time. And
it
then
was
bye.
awesome. Which is why I think like I was so upset. I think had everything been like a little bit here and there, when I got deported, I'd been like, it happens, and just gone to the next thing. But like truly last year, the when we were brought in, it's not like we were coming in to try and build anything crazy enough. We were just the missing pieces. And
Mm.
so when we got here, these girls had known like the formation, the tactics, the everything, how each other played, at least minimum 3 years. These girls have been together. And the also just like how welcoming they were. Because honestly, there's a lot of times you go to a team outside the states, and it takes them a minute to like want to bring you in because like also foreigners are kind of like temporary, so like they're like, why get too close, and
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
it's a cultural thing. But like this group was so welcoming when we got here from the moment they met us. Everybody so nice, completely like no hesitation of like trying to switch into English, like, they just right away like made us feel incredibly welcomed all the way around. And then the success that we were having on the field, we were just like having a laugh. Like, granted, we were predicted to win the league, but like it was honestly enjoyable. We had the freedom to try things and actually be creative. We had no fear that like, oh man, our back line, we only have three defenders. Like, no, they're studs, they got it. Like, so we could be a little bit more like brave in the attack. And like it when somebody scored, it wasn't like, oh, that should have been my goal. Like, no, everybody was overjoyed for whoever that person was. And we were recognizing other things like, hey, you made this hard sprint to the front post. You created that. Because of you, we were able to score. Like, good work. Like, all the way around. And our captain as well last year, like Cece, I could talk about her for days. She was so consistent on like the highs and the lows of things throughout the year, all the time. Consistent. Her play, consistent. She never missed, like,
Yeah.
and she was also just like somebody like that you felt that you could actually go to and things get done, like, hey, this is kind of bothering me. How should I go about it? Guides in the right way, like, has the experience on her back as well. She played for the national team. She's played at the top clubs here, like all the way around the environment. Everybody genuinely wanted to be each other's friend too. It wasn't like, little cliques here and there,
Yeah.
but like a
Yeah.
complete group. And we all knew, hey, this is the goal. This is what we need to do. These are the standards as well that we've set ourselves to, and we will not fall below those. Period. End of
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. Like for the games I was here, it was great.
Like it.
Yeah.
I like No, but it
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. I mean, it all adds up though. The people you're around, the coaches. Yeah. It's a feeling of trust and belonging, which is
Mhm.
very difficult to find, I think, nowadays. I mean, that's what sports really include, which is nice. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year it felt like a fairy tale. When you have like a certain season where I don't know if you've ever had this where you're like either it doesn't really matter if you're predicted to win it or you're like the underdog, but everything just kind of works, and it just feels like you're
Yeah.
on this run. Like
Yeah.
that's what last year felt like. There was no drop, even after the two of us got deported, like the girls that stepped in did the job, like that it just because and it sounds bad, just because the loss of us two, like not being able to finish the season,
Yeah.
like both of us made sure like do not let this like steer us away from the end goal.
Yeah.
Like that is the goal. Just because this has happened, this cannot drop in any way. Period. So the girls that did step in, they were like, "Oh God, okay, I have to be at this level or higher." Like it wasn't like I'm gonna do my best, like see what happens. But like they really did step in, being like, "Okay, this is now the role, and I have to do it better." Like for the team, it
Yeah.
was a good competitive, healthy competitive.
it's so fascinating because as we talk about this, I think of how much courage it takes to, uh, maybe not courage, but you look back and you enjoy these moments of suffering and you enjoy these roller coaster rides. And it's like, what sticks out the most? And I think we're all a little different in what sticks out the most for these years, right? And I think of whether you're successful or not in your career or the team was successful or not, like we look back and I think we're all overjoyed for the most part.
Mm.
And it's like that's what the sport does. That's what these environments is. I miss that. I miss it so much. At the same time, I don't miss living in a closet. I'll be honest. I prefer my nice bed. I do. I do. I don't miss the ice baths. I still do them just because that's my own health and I'm a psychopath. I'm not a
Listen,
psychopath. For anyone listening, I'm not a psychopath.
I'm not a fan of the cold tubs. Like when in
Grow up.
college we
You're in
go
a
to,
cold country.
well, listen, I'm working on that. Like I didn't realize really how cold it was here before I got here. But when I was in college, we did the cold tubs, but we only had to go like waist deep, you know?
Yeah.
I've been doing the cold plunge thing here where you're like, here and below. I promise you, I did a sauna for like, what was it, like 12 minutes before I thought I was gonna die. So I step out and I was like, okay, like let's just jump into the water and do the thing so we can get out of here. I
Do
almost
the
passed out in the cold plunge. Like 30 seconds in, things are starting to spin. I could feel like my heart, like, oh, it
yeah,
freaks me out.
totally.
Absolutely freaks me out. I think I'm getting better at it, but that first time, I thought I was gonna die. I thought that was it. I'm not a fan of the cold.
It I've become more fascinated by the cold. I know we're getting off topic here,
No,
but
it's fine.
who's it? Wim Hof. He said his only teacher or his best teacher has been the cold. Think about that. He chooses to go in the cold because it teaches him about him. That is his guru, his guidance, his everything is the cold. And people are starting to hop on this train. It's just something to think about. Think about it. You're so uncomfortable. You're so uncomfortable in that situation. So it's like, what are you learning to be in the cold?
Miserable.
We have to tear certain muscles in order for us to be stronger. No one likes tearing their muscles. Think
Right.
about your mind. You have to suffer mentally in order to become more resilient, disciplined, whatever it is. The cold teaches you things. I'm going to dig into you. This is totally a different subject at a different time. We're going to dig into that.
Okay, we will come back to the cold plunge discussion because you know what, I have one comment to leave it on. The cold has taught me something. It has shown and it has made me feel what death feels like. I was so close to passing out. Like, I'm not joking. I started here in the water, and about 30 seconds, I was starting to, like, I was getting close. Like, I almost just,
You should have put your head in there. I'll show
I,
you I'm gonna do an Instagram of my cold routine, and you're just gonna be like, no, not happening.
you should throw it up on the story and just be like, cold plunge day on our Instagram live. Show everybody
Fine.
what's up. And then I will watch it and I will get back to you on how I feel about it.
I feel
I
a
hate it.
little. I don't want to do this. I know. I feel
Yeah.
you.
But I am working on it because I know it's important. I am working on it.
Good, as you should. All right,
Um,
highlights. What else do you have for highlights?
ooh, like this year or in my career?
Career. Let's
Oof.
do this. Let's do two more highlights. You get to choose your highlights. Let's
All
make
right,
this.
fair.
Yeah, two highlights.
I
What's out the most?
I came up with my own saying. You're gonna hate it. Because of how I've done in my career, like, because I like foot skills and things like that. Like that is
Yeah.
like my bread and butter. So you know how you've probably heard that saying, like, when in doubt, kick it out,
Gosh.
right? I instead have changed it to when in doubt, meg it out because it's very successful. I like a couple weeks ago, I was playing against my old club actually. I tell you, they have the fastest girl, and I was known to be like the fastest winger. No, this girl is the fastest girl in the league, hands down. She's had a kid and she is faster than me. I don't know how. She's faster than me. And this does not happen often to me, truly.
Never.
But the first half it was a lot of like me chasing her and things like that. And then the second half, I tell you, there's something about a halftime. I love a good halftime. But by second half, my role had kind of switched because we had tried the left side a lot defensively on the right, and then we started to attack on the right. I megged this girl 3 times in this game, and they're right back. And I was like, oh, I'm on fire. And like it it was so nice because like also as a winger, yeah, you do those 1v1s, but as a right back, yes, there's a certain
You have to be
time and
brave.
place for a
You have to be very brave as a right back to go, I'm going to meg you, knowing the goal is right behind you.
right. And I did it so many times. Oh, I listen, I came off the field again and like my teammates literally the way that they were looking at me, they're like, you disrespected her all day. And I was like, I know I did. It was amazing. Like that 100% was a highlight because and it sounds so bad because like I see her and I mean this in the best way possible. She
Uh-huh.
is the most difficult winger I have ever played against. Period. Or honestly the most difficult player 1v1 match I have
Uh,
ever played against. So
uh,
the first game I remember when we played them away, I was basically shaking in my boots because I was like, I know she's fast. Like now I have to be incredibly smart. I have to be very on top of it. And so and when I left the game, I did very well. Like my coach even said, like after the game, you did your job, very good. And I was like, I did do my job today. But this was the first time on the attacking end where I feel like I bested her. And I was like, because I respect her so much. This isn't the first time I've megged a girl or repetitively in a game. Like it's not the first time, but because of who it was and the respect I have for her
yeah,
is why it meant so much to me.
a lot of sense. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. And like I say, I mean that with the best of intention because she is such a
I
stud.
hear you. Oh, I hear you. Yeah, best of intention. I like it. It's a good highlight.
Yeah.
I'll give you
What
that.
about you?
When I look back in terms of my all right, I'll do two. One, to captain a team is a great honor. And that opened up a brand new world of that was another level for me, is to captain. And I say it's an honor. I didn't realize what that would do for me as a human being in taking responsibility. And so when I look back in reflection, the highlight of being a captain is the success of the team and the success of players. Not so much for myself, but it's like I felt like I was a piece of that. Like Nashville Soccer Club, for example. I don't know if many people know this. The walkout song is a Johnny Cash song. And I remember talking with the coach, the GM, and they're just like, we need something that sticks. We need something for the fans. We need something for you guys. And it's like, okay. So they still play that song today. In every game, that is their walkout song. It's a Johnny Cash classic in Nashville. And it gets everyone pumped up. And it's just like, it's historic. It's cultural. It's tradition. And for me, in terms of when I look back, the highlight is to have something that sticks much longer lasting than I will. I haven't played for Nashville in years, and that still sticks. That is part of their
Yeah.
culture. I made an impact. So for me, that's a big one. That's a big one. The captaining and having made that to where it is enjoyed, endured, and still holding the test of time, which is a few years. Who knows if it's going to last longer? I don't know. Maybe they'll chop in and go, we're done with this. We're going to go Cardi B now. And if they did that, I would hit Cardi. Blah, blah, blah. That would be awful. Disastrous. Yeah, for
That
sure.
was disastrous.
That would
No,
be
that's
disastrous.
awesome. That is awesome to be able to still your impact when you're there and immediately when you leave you in the reassurance that maybe players or coaches tell you the impact you've made, but to actually get to see it or hear it, part of that impact still isn't is amazing. It's constant, you know what I mean? Not just the small little conversation then you're hoping that something stuck over the years, but like I know, and you say it sounds kind of silly, like a song, but like, no, that is really cool that like you got to be a part of that, and they're still using it now for the club that is, yes, they've just recently started like this MLS and everything, but they're a pretty well known group now, like they're a respected group. So to be able to have, a say so in that, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a highlight. A
Nice.
much bigger picture than myself, which didn't
Mhm.
think it, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think that would, yeah, I didn't think it'd have the success it did, but I mean, those pains and sufferings and in like enduring the year, it's all worth it. And that's the thing. It's like, why do we suffer? Because it's all worth it. We don't
Mhm.
realize it 'cause we can't see the big picture. We can't see the 2, the 3, the 5 year down the road or the mile, but it's worth it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Nice. Noise. Crushed it. Noise.
I'm gonna use that audio bit for something else. Just that little bit of like noise, crushed it.
Uh, yes.
Oh my. Well, do you have any like announcements about like sessions or anything coming up this weekend that you want to talk about real fast for anything that people can get involved in?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are crushing it. Sunday is shooting, attacking, and it it has been the greatest success. And I didn't realize how big it's become, and it's become big. So it's like working on technique, scoring goals, and this is a big one for everyone. It's like, what is the hardest thing to do in the game of soccer? Score goals. How much time is dedicated to just getting reps shooting on the frame? 3 minutes, maybe. You know what I mean? Most kids don't get enough reps. And all the kids, all the clients, all the swarm clients, they're scoring goals. 5 out of 6 of them scored goals this last week. I'm like, let's keep it going. And they're loving it. So
That's
shooting
big time.
session, 9 to 10, 10 to 11. First group is girls, second group is boys. We're crushing it. And it's getting bigger.
Is there
Uh,
like an age group specific for these, or is it just any guys, any girls?
Middle school and high schoolers are
Okay,
coming in to these sessions. Unfortunately, the goalies, the
right.
goalies are also involved, and we got to keep the quality as best as possible. But it's been wonderful. Um, Group sessions and individuals are Saturdays, but the other successful sessions, is the defensive session. There aren't enough coaches that know how to teach how to defend,
Bingo.
and that is Friday evening at 6:15. And so it's been wonderful. The defenders are loving it because they don't get the praise that they very much deserve, and they get to work on their craft, specific movements, specific timing, specific parts of the field, both on the ball, off the ball. And I say that because it's like, well, what skill sets, to your point, because you've met some people as a fullback, what are the right skill sets building out of the back? And we work on those things. Obviously, we work on tackling, slide tackling, defensive posture, footwork, and it's a hit. Everyone loves it. So that's what's going down. Defensive session, Friday evening, 6:15.
I do have to say, from a testimonial side of this, working with you this past winter, we did a lot of those 1v1s. And normally, up until this year, I was more of that attacker per se. Like you were defending me. Yeah.
Yep.
But this winter, we spent some time for the defensive role for me. And truly, even throughout my youth, I never had somebody, because I've always been the attacker, the winger, properly teach me how to defend. Because like as a winger, it sounds so silly, but like the ball makes it to the wing back or the outside back, or you're like, okay, you guys got it, get them, boys. Like, and that's really it as a winger. But now that I've switched into this role, I'm so thankful that we did spend that time this winter, because like this season, I think for games that I have like been able to play in healthy, I've only had one goal scored on my side of the field.
Go.
Yeah.
That is success. Let's go.
And like truly though, taking that time this winter, you teaching me like the side on movement and how much easier it is to react to things instead of face like the way that your hips are facing, and how to
Yep.
not get twisted and things like, And we have a load of video that I can also attach to this of multiple times of me failing that this past winter. But like really spending that time and figuring that out, it has done so much for this season specifically defensively. Like
Wonderful.
just having those little notes that like that you taught me changes everything. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Because also, and it's not, and not to like dog on my coaches, but like they didn't teach me anything. They were like, go play right back. Like, so I was actually having to get the rules of thumb as the season was going because I've always had the attacker mind. You know, like
Yeah.
I ball comes in as I'm the right back and I win it. I'm like, I did it. I'm like, no, I put it at the top of the box. What am I thinking? You know, like because as an attacker, you always think make something of this. You have to make something of it. Can you
Right.
create an opportunity instead of like, hey, I could have let that go up for a goal kick. I don't know. You know, and it just doesn't it didn't click yet, you know, but to be fair, in the 1v1s that I've had, my first reaction is, okay, side on, don't get mad. This like and I go through all the quick checklist in my head so that I can't get beat, you know. And I like I said, I've only had the one time this year and it was a 2v1 situation. So if I'm gonna get beat, I'm cool with it being a 2v1. But
But
yeah, I've only been it's only been the one goal this year. And a lot of that, not a lot of it, all of it is to do with the defensive work that you taught me over this winter. So if that's a shout out for anybody to jump
they
on this.
need to hop on. They need to hop on. If you're a defender and you want to get better at defending, I will teach you all of it.
We can work miracles. 15 years as a winger right here. And now you're seeing a right back. So but yeah, no, if anybody who's listening to this, if you guys want to jump in on a session, please message us on Instagram, the Swarm Soccer, so that you guys can get involved. He is running sessions out of Franklin,
Ravenwood.
Ravenwood. So over in the Brentwood, Franklin area. So that way that you guys can get involved and get to experience Michael's coaching because it's not often found. It is one in a million for sure. So but Michael, I appreciate you taking time to chat about all this fun stuff, not not all the lows and stuff, but just the highs of soccer, the enjoyment of soccer and our highlights and things. And we will have to do another podcast here soon.
Let's do it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.